Also, what it means to be black in America, folks, is to have to deal with people who really don't quite understand us, don't understand what we do, don't understand and how important it is to get information right concerning us. You know, and I've worked in a lot of black media spaces, and I've always said that, you know what, I don't waste time with dealing with mainstream media on lots of stuff because for me, it is about the ability for us to be able to tell our story, and I always say that they'll never be able to, as I put it, out black me. That's how I always put it. But what drives me crazy is when we have folks who do stories that impact African Americans, and especially when we have black targeted or black owned media outlets who somehow screw it up, put information out there that black people hear about and see, and then it's wrong. And then folks wonder, then people are wandering around with misinformation, and then they say this, that, and the other, and what, you know, what happens with us, and it's just, it's nerve-wracking. And so over the weekend, I came across this story that was on that NBC News did, and I don't know what platform it ran on, whether it was their NBC Now or whatever, but Isa Gutierrez was the reporter, and so she did this story. Now, I didn't actually see her story first. What I saw was a rewrite of her story by an Alexandria Payne, or Lane, I believe, on The Root, which is not black owned. A white hedge fund owns The Root, but they're black targeted, a very, you know, prominent black targeted website. So what bothered me the most in reading this story, that it literally was a rewrite of the piece that was done. Like that was it. There was nothing, there was no original reporting. It was a rewrite. So essentially they just took the piece that was on NBC and just rewrote it, and there you go. So I'm looking at this story. And they interviewed 3 HBCU students, and they're talking to them about, y'all can go to my computer, I'm showing the story. They're talking to them about funding. I'm trying to figure out how to get this closed caption off, but it's not working. And so I'm watching the story, and they're talking about the housing conditions and the protests at Howard University. And the whole story is about how Biden is not living up to his promises with the funds to HBCUs. Okay. They talked about how they promised some $60 million in funding and the things that they need. And then, like right here, she talks to this Alabama A&M student. Go to this. Pull it up, please.
Professors to offer different classes or more classes, we need better funding.
We reached out to Howard University, and they said in part that they advertised additional housing for juniors and seniors and work hard to ensure those who...
So the brother from Alabama A&M was saying they needed more professors, they need better equipment, things along those lines. And so I'm listening to the story, I'm watching, and then the reporter, she's asking them about, well, Biden said this is going to be a priority, and what are your thoughts about that? And the student says this.
And Black people, period, in America have been given false promises on campaigns.
I was more naive. I thought the promise would be kept. We all know how the game is played.
It's so unfortunate to hear us say that's just how the game is played, because this isn't a game.
Do you have hope that the Biden administration will do right by HBCUs?
I'll say yes. I will say yes.
I'm going to say that the most hope that I have is in students.
I have mixed feelings about it because I love optimism because we need people like that. Like, we're still going through a pandemic. I really don't expect them to look at college students, especially just even put HBCU students on the focal point. I don't see it happening.
Okay. Now, they say in the report they reached out to the White House and the White House did not respond back to them. Okay. See, this is what I can't stand. I can't stand lazy ass reporting. I can't stand trifling reporting. I can't stand when you do a story and you're talking to 3 HBCU students. Now, God bless those students. But let's just be real honest. Those 3 students have absolutely no clue about what's happening in Washington, D.C. with funding. They don't. NBC News, Isabella Gutierrez. Did she call the United Negro College Fund? Nope. Did she call the Thurgood Marshall Fund? Nope. Did she call the Congressional Black Caucus? Nope. Did she call anybody? Did she call NAFIO? Leslie Baskerville? Nope. Who is the Thurgood Marshall Fund, the UNCF, and NAFIO? The 3 largest lobbyists for HBCUs in Washington, D.C. Who would know better about funding for HBCUs than NAFIO, Thurgood Marshall Fund, and United Negro College Fund? But then they don't even call the Congressional Black Caucus. Okay, why should you call Congressional Black Caucus? Well, could it be that CDC members on the House Education Committee? Should it be people like Congressman Jim Clyburn, who is in the Democrat House leadership? He's the whip. Kind of know what's going on, right? They call nobody. No facts, no details, no nothing. So black folks are out here retweeting this article, and they're saying, I saw it in the Root. That's a black website. But all the Root did was rewrite the NBC story. See, y'all, I've been telling y'all for years, one of the biggest problems with black targeted media and black-owned media, they don't call nobody. They rewrite some stuff in white media, slap their name on it, give it the veneer of blackness, and then we go, ooh, I saw it here, I saw it there, when all they're doing is ripping off somebody else's reporting and then making it seem like it's theirs. It was a total rewrite. Yeah. So, on Twitter yesterday, I lit that ass up with 20 tweets, putting the Root and NBC News and this reporter on blast for shoddy reporting. Why? Because we've been covering this stuff. We've been showing y'all the real data. We've been having the experts on. Oh, if you click that Root story, this is what comes up right now. Post not found. You know why? They took that shit down. And they took it down because I dragged that ass. Now, why did I drag him? This ain't about defending Biden and Harris. This is about facts. This is about why I keep telling y'all, stop listening to these other people who don't know shit about black people and trust people who are actual journalists. Because you know what I did? I text Congresswoman Alma Adams. Who is Alma Adams? She is only an HBCU graduate who's in the Congressional Black Caucus, who's the co-chair of the HBCU caucus. I text Congressman Jim Clyburn, who is only an HBCU graduate, South Carolina State, who is the highest-ranking African-American in Congress. I hit up Michael Lomax, who leads the United Negro College Fund. I hit up Leslie Baskerville with NAFIO. I hit up my frat brother, Dr. Walter Kimbrough, president of Dillard University. Y'all, wasn't that hard? So, if everybody out here and y'all watching the rest of these people and they talk about HBCUs, what they not doing, And what we ain't got, now remember in the story, the young lady, and again, I'm not dissing her, she just don't know. She said, we in the middle of a pandemic and they don't care about HBCUs and what's going on. Remember what she said? That's what she said. Again, I'm not dissing her because y'all, she don't know. Please go to my computer. This, y'all, is a spreadsheet that Congressman Jim Clyburn sent me. What does it say at the top? COVID relief to HBCUs. Left-hand column, the first university is Alabama A&M, the one that brother was in. The first column, it says Cap 5 forgiveness. That column shows you the loan forgiveness the federal government did, the Biden administration did for HBCUs. Look at the bottom right here. $1,603,382,977.29. Y'all see the schools. Xavier, Winston-Salem State, Virginia Union, Tennessee State, Texas College, Spelman, on and on and on and on and on. Oh, let's now go to the CARES Act. This list, let me go ahead and zoom this in for y'all watching. This shows you right here, CARES Act, how much all of the HBCUs received. Alabama A&M, 9.1 million. Alabama State, 6.2 million, and go on down. 4.3, 6.7, 6.5, 3.6, on and on and on. The CARES Act was passed under this administration. HBCUs received $352,770,880 as a result of the CARES Act. Y'all ain't done. Scroll over here. CARES Act 2. Alabama A&M, 17 million. Alabama State, 12 million. Go on and 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 on. CARES Act 2, HBCUs received $578,925,495. Y'all ain't done. Scroll over to the CRRSAA Act. I don't even know what the hell that is. Maybe Rodriguez, what would UNCF bring him in, please? Rodriguez, what is that? What is that?
You were just looking at, Roland, you talked about CARES Act. That was actually for March 2020. Then the second thing, the CRRSA, we call it CRSA. That was the December 2020 stimulus. You remember the bill that on his way out, President Trump said he was going to sign it, and he said he wasn't going to sign it, and he ended up signing it. Right. It was that bill. Okay. And so what so that's CRRSA. Hold on. Here we. Hold on. I'm gonna go down, y'all. In the CRRSA 1, HBCUs got $583,873,621. Okay. Now let's pause right there. Go ahead. I'll tell you what that is. That's the pot of money that every college and university in the country got some of. But that's the part that just HBCUs got. Now you're going to go into the part 2 of CRSA, and that is money set aside just for HBCUs. Now out of that pot 1, you remember hearing HBCUs were forgiving debt and forgiving student fees, right? And they were doing things for students that nobody else was doing. Yep. Even though bigger schools with bigger endowments and more resources, such as Meharry giving students $10,000 and such as that. Okay. Exactly. So that's coming out of that first portion that you're mentioning. And then separate from that, that second portion under the same name, CRSA, that's the HBCU set aside. Okay, hold up. We going there. Y'all see 19.8, 13.6, 17.7. Let's go on down. So that HBCU set aside money
comes out to $852,828,978.
Darn near $1 billion. And so that's money that we made the case to Congress. HBCU advocates, you mentioned Leslie Baxterville, Thurgood Marshall, United Negro College Fund, Michael Lomax. We made the case to Congress that if Black people are disproportionately impacted, you want to call us essential workers, but you're basically saying that we are more exposed, we have more pre-existing conditions, we're more impacted, then we should therefore get more of the stimulus money because we're more impacted. That means that the students at our schools, their parents are still in harm's way. They're more likely to die. They're more likely to be infected. And so the schools where we are attending in disproportionate percentages should get more money. And so that's the case we made. And you see that darn near $1 billion.
What is ARP Act? ARP, what's that?
That's the American Rescue Plan. Now, this is the first signature achievement of the Biden administration. And so what you find in the American Rescue Plan, ARP, is American Rescue Plan is roughly about the size of CARES Act from March 2020, plus the CRSA or the December 2020 stimulus that President Trump was going to sign, then he wasn't going to sign, then he ended up signing it. You basically add those two packages together and you get what President Biden came out the gate with.
We're going to scroll down. So ARP Act, 25.3, 18, 20, 15. So going down, when I get to the bottom, 1,024,804,301. So the first.
And you're just getting started.
So the first major bill that President Biden signed, this is not the federal government budget, this is a separate bill, was $1 billion for HBCUs. Now,
and that's just the first part of it, because that's out of the part where all colleges and universities each got a piece. So places like UNC Chapel Hill got a piece, and places like Emory got a piece. But out of that piece that all colleges and universities got, that was the HBCU total. And then in addition to that, again, because the disproportionate impact that the pandemic has on Black people, we made the case for the A2 that you're about to go into now, and above that $1 billion that you
and the AP projected, was that Build Back Better? Was that BBB?
No, you're still in the American Rescue Plan.
Okay, so
we're talking about actual law. We're not talking about anything proposed yet.
So ARP Act projected. Y'all see 34.6, 23 point, going down, going down, going down, going down. It comes out to $1,487,453,737.63.
So Roland, I want to help put this in perspective. I've been doing this work for HBCU lobbying, advocacy, making the case for these schools to Congress for a good bit of time now. And HBCUs, before the last 4 or 5 years, in legislation, we're never in the same sentence with the word billion. And if you look back at the stimulus that happened during President Obama's time, which gives you an apples to apples comparison on stimulus packages, you were not going to find that HBCUs had a particular set aside. And so what you're seeing now is these schools are rising to the point where they are garnering more attention from public policy leaders and decision makers in Washington. And so that they're not fighting for scraps, but they're starting to get real money and investment, the kind that they've deserved since their inception 200 years ago.
Now, folks, I want y'all now to look at this here, this last column. It shows you all of those bills broken down by how much each one of the schools got. Alabama A&M got $207.4 million. Alabama State, $232.3 million. It's just gone. Just scroll on down. You got this 108 right there. That's Clark Atlanta. Clark Atlanta got 108.3. Keep going. Y'all see that big number? 307. That's Florida A&M. Got 307.2 million. 184, 111, keep going, all these numbers, you see that, y'all, I'm showing you actual numbers, okay? Actual numbers. Big number right there. Out of all of these bills, HBCUs got $6,484,989.92. Now, go ahead.
So let's put everything in perspective, because the question that everyone wants to ask, and it's really kind of unfair, and I'll tell you why, is which administration was better for HBCUs? That's what they all want to say. Now, by the numbers, if you're only gonna look during coronavirus pandemic time, and you're only gonna look at these major pieces of stimulus legislation, you saw what President Trump and that Congress did in March 2020 plus December 2020 basically equals just about what President Biden did in his one bill, the American Rescue Plan, in March of 2021. It took those two bills, the first two, together under Trump to get what President Biden came out the gate swinging and achieved early in his administration. So all this talk about they haven't been successful and they haven't done anything meaningful is just really some inside the beltway chatter.
Now see, now I'm about to really mess y'all up. I'm about to really mess y'all up because I'm about to show you really, in terms of y'all can understand apples to apples. State HBCUs that are public institutions, they are largely funded by the state government. It is not the responsibility of the federal government to be funding state colleges. It's the state. Let me show y'all the deal. Go to my computer. Take Alabama A&M. Alabama A&M state appropriations fiscal year 20 was $46.7 million. They got $1.1 million in state grants. So the total funding for Alabama A&M was $47.8 million in state funding. Listen to me closely, y'all. $47.8 million. That brother who was on the NBC story, he was saying we need more professors, more buildings. Y'all, the state's supposed to fund that. Look how much Alabama A&M got in federal COVID relief. $207.5 million. That means that Alabama A&M got 4 times as much money from the federal government in COVID relief funding than they got from their own state. That means that out of the federal COVID relief money, it would take Alabama A&M 4 years to get $207.5 million. That's what they got in COVID relief. Go on down. Alabama A&M, Alabama State, 54.9 in total state funding. How much from federal COVID relief? $232.3 million. Bishop State got total funding, $15.8 million from the state, COVID relief, $55 million. Gadsden State got $25.4 million in total state funding, $35 million in COVID funding. On and on. Go on down. University of Arkansas. Look at Delaware State, University of District of Columbia, Florida A&M. Florida A&M got $136.9 million from the state of Florida. They got $307.2 million in federal COVID relief money. Keep going down and y'all see Grambling got $18.9 million from the state of Louisiana. They got $184.6 million in COVID relief money. Keep going. Southern University of New Orleans, Shreveport, Southern University in Baton Rouge, $29.3 million in state funding, $132 million in COVID funding. Alcorn State, keep going. Jackson State, $44 million from state, $120 million in COVID relief money. Y'all, what I'm trying to show y'all, look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. These are actual numbers. This is a spreadsheet that we got from Congressman Jim Clyburn's office that is detailing the exact numbers. Tennessee State, $63.2 million from the state, $115.5 million from the federal government. Now, the point I'm laying out here for folks, Rodriguez, is who don't fully understand the data, Okay, these are public institutions. But now, explain to people who don't understand why they're not seeing private HBCUs on this list.
So private HBCUs are not supposed to be funded by the state. You mentioned Alabama State and all kinds of other HBCUs whose names you know that have basically the state mentioned in them. They're funded by the state where they reside. And so the private institutions like my alma mater, Morehouse College, like Spelman College, like Dillard University, like Xavier University, they're not affiliated with the state and they don't get money from the state by and large. So the federal government helps all HBCUs, but the states, they are supposed to help those entities that they have procured. Those are institutions that they're supposed to caretake, just like the major teaching research intensive institutions that are the flagships of that state. The state takes care of them. And part of the problem over the years with HBCUs is that states have not taken care of their state-funded HBCUs the same way they've taken care of their what they call flagship. All of those institutions should be flagships, including those that are excellent at educating Black Americans.
Okay, what about federal government? Okay, is the federal government precluded from giving money to private HBCUs?
No. The federal government is the #1 funder in the country for all HBCUs, period.
Okay, hold on. I need you to repeat that for the people who were not paying attention.
The federal government is the #1 funder of all HBCUs in the country. And without the federal government, there's not a single one of the 100+ historically Black colleges and universities that can survive at all.
So when you see this NBC News story that the Root then rewrote, when you see the AP story, the Newsweek story saying 45 billion was taken, no, explain to people that the initial bill that President Biden, Vice President Harris put up was $11 trillion. It got whittled down to 1.75. That means 90% of what they suggested get funded got taken out.
What you find is a lot of naivete, and people don't want to go into the level of detail that they should. So you look at President Biden and Vice President Harris' proposals. They had two. There was one for infrastructure and there was one for families. When you put together what they had in infrastructure plus what they had in the families plan or the human infrastructure, when you put them together, you had a commitment to historically Black colleges and universities that no other president had ever made. So Roland, you look back at the history of presidents of the United States, and you're gonna find largely that in their budgets, they pretty much proposed for HBCUs whatever they got out of Congress last year. No president really has ever taken a proactive stance to say, I'm writing my budget the way I want to, and I'm gonna add a plus up for HBCUs, and I dare you, Congress, not to pass it. It's never happened.
Now,
None of the 45 people before him ever done that. But President Biden is the first and only president in history. When he wrote his budget for fiscal year 2021, he plussed up the HBCU programs because he talked to the HBCU groups before he put his budget out. And he asked, what do you guys want? And he wrote plus ups for HBCU programs in his budget. Now, I'm not talking about the COVID packages. I'm talking about fiscal year 2021 annual appropriations. The president puts out a budget first. He plussed those programs up in his budget. And I'm here to tell you, Roland, no president had ever plussed those programs up like that, ever.
No president, including the 44th.
No president had ever plussed up those programs like that, ever. They usually do what they call just taking the last fiscal year, copy and pasting that and putting that in the president's budget. This president, for the major program, we call it Title III. Title III of the Higher Education Act, which focuses in on strengthening institutions that have a disproportionate number of underserved students like HBCUs. this president put in a plus up of $100 million in one single fiscal year in that program. And Roland, if they pass the appropriations bills as they're written, which they're still waiting for Congress to do, and they have a deadline of mid next month to do it.
Right.
If they pass it, that one program will be increased by over $85 million. And that is because you, for once in the history of America, had an American president willing to put the plus up in his budget. Now, then you also have to add, Roland, because you know people like Alma Adams, and you know people like Barbara Lee, and people like Sanford Bishop. Those are the unsung heroes in this process, both in terms of.
And I was about to get there.
Jim Clyburn.
Yeah, I was about to get there because I got some. See, I like calling out people. I got some fool named Renee Stevens on YouTube. Roland stay capping for them white folks. No, idiot. The president can propose one thing, but Congress can always remove it. It's the black folks in the House who ensure it stays in. So when people
and
see
not
him,
just them.
so when folks say, "Oh, the Black Caucus ain't doing nothing," guess what, folks?
Cory Booker, Raphael Warnock, John Ossoff. You have to add all of these people together, and I'll really help break some news for you, Roland.
Go ahead.
Is that HBCUs get a lot of bipartisan support in Congress, as quiet as it's kept.
Oh yeah.
And so because you look at them located in the American South, their House members are largely Republican. And so we have to bring them into the coalition and walk with them along with the Democrats, like a Sanford Bishop that went to Morehouse and knows what that school means. We have to bring all of them together on both sides of the aisle and get these kinds of things accomplished, because if we didn't bring them with us, they tell us that the money wasn't going to be there for us. But because our coalition has both Democrats and Republicans in it, we're getting things done, and we're finally starting to see increases that these schools have really deserved since the mid-1800s.
Absolutely. Rodriguez, I appreciate it. I wanted to walk through this because I'm tired of our people falling for bad reporting and not having actual data. And here's the piece, folks. We challenged President Obama when it came to HBCU funding as well. This ain't about Biden, about Democrats. This is about our institutions getting what we deserve, and that's what matters. We appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
I want to bring up my panel, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, Dean, College of Ethics Studies, California State University, LA, Dr. Umakongo Dabinga, Professorial Lecturer, School of International Service, American University, Law, Victoria Burke, writer with the NNPA and the GRIO. Julianne, I want to start with you, President Emeritus of Bennett College. I mean, I was so pissed watching that NBC News story and then watching that crap on the GRIO, on the Root, which I'm glad they took the story down, because all it takes is picking the damn phone up. Hell, they could have went to whitehouse.gov, typed in HBCU, and would have pulled up the sheet that they put out on January 20th and the one they put out in October. And my problem is when black people see this, they go, see, they ain't doing shit for HBCUs. They promised us, and we ain't got no money.
You know, Roland, that I saw the same piece on NBC. I saw it a couple of times because they had it on Peacock and they had it on another platform. It was, as you said, it was shoddy reporting. It was all over the place. If a journalism student sent me that piece, I would have given them an F-, if you could, because one young person is talking about buildings, the other young lady is talking about Howard University's dormitories. It was just all over the place. It seemed almost like a hit piece on the Biden administration from a perspective of saying they haven't done enough. The reporter needs, if not fired, they need to have the child start covering street crossings or something, because it was really a poorly done piece. But the fact is that President Biden has done a whole lot more than President Obama did. Then
Obama, then Trump, then Bush, then Clinton. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And but President Biden has done a lot more than his predecessors, any of his predecessors had done. And I think that that's the influence of Kamala Harris, who of course is.
And black voters. And the pressure black people said, you got to do something.
And Cedric Richmond, who I believe is an HBCU grad. And of course, Jim Clyburn, Congressman Clyburn, has always there in the cut. And I must tell you, as you lift up Alma Adams, former Bennett professor for nearly 40 years, She and I retired from Bennett College at the same time.
Got it.
She is indefatigable around issues of HBCUs. Her caucus is bicameral and bipartisan.
Yep.
So she's
that HBCU caucus. Lauren, Congressman Bobby Scott, Virginia, huge advocate as well. But this is the thing, Lauren, that we fight all the time. The NBC News can broadcast that story everywhere, and guess what? I'm gonna go ahead and say this. It's a whole bunch of blue check people who will quickly retweet an NBC News story and never retweet something we report here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I saw all these folks retweeting the NBC News story on Lauren Smith Fields, and I'm like, y'all know we talked to the family attorney on Friday in a 23-minute report. Y'all can also share that if y'all want to. But these type of stories, and then when the root, a black targeted website, rewrites some BS from NBC News, it just reinforces the misinformation.
Yeah, there's very few media organizations that have the reporters that will do the original reporting on something and really call their, like you said, they're just doing rewrites. And unfortunately, we're in an era of clickbait, in an age of misinformation. So it's really important that people actually go and do original reporting. And, you know, no offense to Alma Adams and Jim Clyburn and everybody else, but Rodriguez left out the most important person who you just mentioned, who is the chairman of Education and Workforce, Bobby Scott, because without Bobby Scott and his staff writing the line items in for these numbers, it doesn't happen. It's Congress that appropriates the money. You know, we do have, you know, it was just mentioned, of course, Cedric Richmond, the connection there, but without Congress appropriating that type of money and agreeing to that appropriation, you know, I know a lot of pressure is on Joe Biden. Everybody keeps mentioning Joe Biden and wanting to criticize Joe Biden. Obviously, you need a president that's willing, but you need Congress to appropriate that cash.
That's right.
And by the way, there are billions and billions of dollars in Build Back Better. Okay. And
first of all, and look, our job now, Lauren, Build Back Better didn't get passed. Okay. So which means our job now is to say, all right, Biden and the Democrats, y'all had all this HBCU stuff in Build Back Better. Come up with some other bill to put the money in there.
Right. For HBCUs, though, Build Back Better, of course, is huge. They're going to try to pass it in pieces. And once again, you're going to see Congressman Scott be the one who has to line item all of these billions and billions to get that through.
Right.
Their staff, that's the staff that is pushing all of that through. So the most important player in this actually is Bobby Scott.
Yeah, I mean, but
when people say HBCUs don't do it, I mean, I'm sorry that CBC members don't do anything. You have a CBC member, Bobby Scott, is the quarterback of all of this money. So
I'm a Congo.
It's interesting.
Go to my computer again, y'all. 6.4 billion. $6,484,039,908.92. The president can propose. He can pontificate all day. The Constitution states any appropriations starts in the House, not the Senate. So for all the people who say CBC ain't shit, they ain't doing shit, you do not get this $6.4 billion unless the CDC fights for it.
Absolutely. Look, man, I taught 3 classes at American University today, and I just sat down for a half-hour class on this stuff, and I've been schooled, man, and it's amazing. People will always want to come at the CBC first before they go to anybody else. Right. And one of the things that really bothers me is that I've heard Biden speak about this. I've heard Vice President Harris, but I feel like when we talk about some of the messaging issues that they have, I don't know if this sounds petty or something, but part of their communication teams, man, they need to actively go after these folks who are putting out this misinformation and I would say disinformation like you've just done. Because these pieces, NBC, this is a hit piece. People are looking at any opportunity to go at Biden and his black agenda. And look, you, like you said, you talk good. I mean, if you do good, I'm going to talk about you. You do bad, I'm going to talk about you. You are as critical as Biden as you are praiseworthy when he does things worthy of praise. And this is one of them. And all of the CBC leaders who have led this need to be commended, but the Biden administration needs to do a better job at hitting these types of organizations, the NBCs of the world, the Roots of the world, putting out this disinformation, because he can't come at it. Vice President Harris can't come at it, but that communications team's got to do a better job of checking this stuff on a daily basis.
And before I go to break, to your particular point there, and I appreciate the White House sending me this, but this release that they sent me is a perfect example of what's a waste of paper. They sent me Biden-Harris investments in HBCUs yielding sweet fruit. And they go on in here, and this is the biggest mistakes that these people make. They put in here more than $5.8 billion to HBCUs. The investments enable these colleges and universities to shift from classroom and laboratory-centered learning to virtual learning, blah, 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 blah. And then you go on, and then you go on, and more verbiage, 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 and more verbiage. Then they get down to HBCUs, produce this, produce that, produce this, produce that. Then they got more verbiage, more verbiage, more verbiage, more verbiage. Now we got some quotes. We got more verbiage. We see unprecedented 5.8 billion again, and more verbiage. Okay, so here's my problem, okay? And I got it. And I'm not slamming Leslie and Sonia. They got the names at the bottom of this. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. The White House sent me to this. Joe Madison says that you got to put it where the goats can get it.
Right.
That's right.
You got to say, for example, Alabama A&M got 48 million from the state, 207 million from the federal government. You got to break that thing down. This don't do it, y'all. I'm just letting y'all know.
It's a historic investment in HBCUs.
They don't mean nothing.
Headline.
They don't mean nothing. They don't mean nothing. You got to.
Wrote that release didn't go to J school.
No. But it's a press release, and I get it. And again, I love Leslie, but Leslie, I'm gonna call you when the show's over. But you got to make that thing plain so people understand. That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. So for everybody out here, I got to go to my next story, but I'm trying to explain to all these people out here. This is not about, oh man, you trying to protect the Biden administration. No, I'm trying to protect facts. And so right now, y'all can go out with the real facts now. I put the spreadsheet. I'm going to put it on social media. So everybody out there, oh no, man, oh no. You got the actual hardcore numbers. So I'm not playing this game again. And I am going to pull up the data of what the Biden folks had in the Build Back Better plan. I have it right here, but I'm doing it another day. And I'm going to say, now we have a target of what now to fight for. Because it didn't get passed. Because now you got to know what you're fighting. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches! Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice
to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own. A Black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on that.
Stay black. I love y'all. I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?